Hello, football fans in Hamilton from coast to coast and around the world. This is the fifth quarter show on YouTube, and my name's Rick Zamprin. And my oh my, I think we need to recover after this one. 26-23, Ticats come up short after a valiant effort in the second half. And my oh my, it was that close. This Ticats team did not look good at all in the first half. Absolutely atrocious, in fact, for most of this football game, at least in the first half of it. And they go down to defeat once again, this time in Winnipeg. The final 26-23 just moments ago. The Bombers, who did not play well in the second half, got the job done. When it mattered most, Zach Caleros, who I thought probably had his worst game as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, made a few big plays on that last drive, which started on the Winnipeg 38, drove down the field, and they needed a touchdown. They got it. Caleros to Lawler, 10-yard TD, and the Ticats are now 2-9. They showed some promise. I think the defense played one of the better games of the season, but we know this as well. Winnipeg's offense is not what it used to be. Their O-line was decimated by injuries tonight. Stanley Bryant goes down early on in this game. He ends up going to hospital. From what we've learned, he's in stable condition. Paramedics were working on him actually in the parking lot of Princess Auto Stadium before taking him to the hospital. But at last check, he was in stable condition. And for the second game in a row, not only for Ticats players, but the opposition having to kind of wait around and reset at the start of this game. And we're happy to know that Stanley Bryant is on the road to recovery. So, quick notes. Number one, we're voting for our player of the game as always, commenting on tonight's game, what you think of this Ticats team, what you think of the Chris Jones hiring, and what that might potentially mean for this Ticats team and this defense going forward. And in regards to calls on the fifth quarter, no calls tonight, but we believe that we have figured out the magic formula. In fact, we're waiting for some verification to come through from YouTube. And on Labor Day, the plan is to open up the phones, if you will. You can call in. You will be able to call in. At least that's the hope on Labor Day. That is the plan. So I will keep you all posted when that time comes. That'll be pretty cool to talk to you fine men and women about Ticats football and how this team can somehow, some way get over the hump. There were some flashes tonight in the second half where the defense was holding their own, where the offense was, moving the football. Greg Bell, a couple of touchdowns, and the offensive line was playing pretty well in terms of, not allowing Winnipeg to get to Bo Levi too often. And it seemed, at least in the second half, this team played well enough to win. First half, though, and this has been a common occurrence. I think the stat was 4 games in a row, which they haven't scored in the first quarter. They got to do better. 3 points in the first half of a game, home or away, is unacceptable. They got to be way better than that, and it's got to start after this pseudo bye week. Next game is Labor Day against the Toronto Argonauts. They got to bring it from the opening kickoff. So a couple of ways for you to participate, and I already see a lot of people in the chat. And you can continue to offer your thoughts on the game, vote for your player of the game in the chat. You can send me an email, fifthquartershow@gmail.com, and I'll read your comments on the air as well. And again, next game, Labor Day Classic, we will have, I'm 99.9% sure, we will have a call-in system for you to participate. It's going to be exciting. So let's start on email, because I know I did get a few emails even before the game had ended, including this one from Logan, who writes, "Hello, Rick. We meet again, but this time I am so pumped up because the Ticats are making it to the playoffs," says Logan. Well, wait a minute. They're 2-9. I'm not sure how this playoff format works in the Canadian Football League. Oh, wait a minute. I do know. I don't think it's a possibility. Not at 2-9. Even if they run the table and go 9-9 in the East Division, yeah, they'll probably get in on a crossover spot, but there's no guarantee they're going to finish in third place. And I don't see them running the table either. Anyways, back to Logan's email. Sees them making the playoffs. I am so proud of our Cats and how they played today, and all credit goes to Bo Levi for being a Sigma and getting us touchdowns. But all out the game was really fun to watch with my buddies and my wife of 58 years, Summer. Wow, Logan and Summer, 58 years. That's incredible. He goes on to write, also, think that the Bombers were really good in this game too, with that curly-headed pain in the butt. You know his name, Brady Oliveira, who just blows through the D like nothing. But I really did see a difference with Chris Jones on our team tonight. My player of the game is Bo Levi. And can someone please tell me what happened with that guy who got stretchered out? Logan, again, Stanley Bryant. I'm just going to write Bo Levi here. Stanley Bryant taken to hospital early in the game. Sounded like the heat and the humidity. There was actually a heat warning in Winnipeg. Got to Stanley Bryant. He was stretchered off the field. He was brought to the hospital, and at last check, he was stable. So things are looking up for Stanley Bryant, who was, a key part of that, and it has been for many years, key part of that offensive line. And it's nice to know that he is doing a lot better. To the chat we go. And again, if you're new, you can send me an email as well, fifthquartershow@gmail.com, or plug in your comments on the chat. My player of the game, by the way, I was going back and forth on a number of different guys. I thought Greg Bell had a solid game, 12 carries, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tim White, one of his best games of the season. He was targeted 10 times, made 7 catches, 134 receiving yards. But I look at a guy like Nick Usher, 5 defensive tackles, couple of sacks, always seemed to be around Zach Caleros. I'm running down Nick Usher is my player of the game. That D-line has not been effective getting to the quarterback this season. And I think maybe Chris Jones schematically kind of changes that. But what we saw tonight was much better than what we had seen in the past. 3 sacks tonight. Nick Usher gets 2. I'll vote for him as my player of the game. All right, to the chat we go. Chris says, devastating. John E. says, we lose another one, Rick. Anthony says, unbelievable. Back to John E., who says, we should have won this. We had a chance. And you can almost see it coming at times, right? Like, we've seen this movie before in which the Ticats take a lead. It's looking good, looking promising, but there's a wee little chance that the opposition is going to come back and win this game. And we saw it again tonight. Credit to Winnipeg, especially on that last drive from their 38-yard line. I thought, wow, the way Caleros has played tonight and Winnipeg's offense has played tonight, not scoring a lot of touchdowns in the last few games, I liked Hamilton's chances. Didn't work out for them tonight. Also, defensive pass interference has really been a bugaboo of mine. Like, what is it anymore? Can anyone tell me what defensive pass interference is? Because Desmond Patton gets his jersey pulled, and I know there's hand fighting in there, but I don't know. That's DPI to me, and that certainly would have changed the ball game. I mean, even if the Ticats, soak up a little more of the clock, they score a touchdown, it's probably game over. Even if they settle for a field goal, I think it's damaging enough in terms of the clock that Winnipeg can't go down and score a touchdown. Who knows? Who knows? Chris again says CFL is a 60-minute game. Absolutely it is. We found that out tonight. We also found that out in the Argos game. The Rouge missed field goal for a victory. Brad says the D was at least far better than last game. There's no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. I mean, down 36-3 at one point against Edmonton or whatever it was, 32 to 3. Giving up 44 points. The defense against the Elks was just atrocious. And Hamilton was at home. You got to play way better at home, especially on defense, feeding off the crowd at Tim Hortons Field. On Night says they played so much better, but it was still not enough. And that is the tragic thing that, this team, I think, at least in the second half, I think the first half, it was not very good, especially offensively. Defensively, not too bad. Not too bad. There were some pluses defensively. They got to Caleros. Jamal Peters with an interception, even though that was a gift. Defensively, I'll give them more than a pass in the first half. The offense, though, was brutal. I mean, they're 0 for 5 on second down conversions. They had, 3-4 first downs, not a lot of net yards, did not move the ball, too many 2-and-outs. The offense did not find their gear until after the halftime. And whatever Scott Milanovich told the team in the locker room at the half, I think obviously, caused a spark. So I think that's something we can kind of look to say, okay, maybe this is a plus they can build on in weeks to come. Even though it did not materialize into a W tonight, maybe that is something this team can hang its hat on to say in the second half, we outplayed Winnipeg in their sold out stadium. So let's take that as a plus. Johnny says player of the game is Tim White. Tim White, I thought, was good. I don't think there was too many plays where we saw Tim and thought, that's not going to cut it. I think he balled out tonight. Certainly the stats back that up. One of his strongest games of the season. Again, if you missed it earlier, 7 catches, 134 yards, including a long of 30. And Bo Levi was looking to him, early and often. It wasn't working out in terms of getting those catches, getting those receptions. But finally, they found their gear. I think it was the third or fourth drive of the first half. And most definitely in the second half, they were coming up big. In terms of Bo Levi and Tim White. Bo Levi stats, 14 of 28, 220 passing yards. And while he didn't throw any touchdowns, he also didn't turn the ball over as well. I think that's a positive sign too, because a lot of the chatter about Bo Levi and why he ultimately got benched in favor of Taylor Powell, who's now on the 6-game injured list, is that he was turning the ball over too much. That simply can't happen, especially in a Scott Milanovich offense. He is very particular in terms of quarterback's got to be accurate. Quarterback can't turn the ball over. And Bo Levi was doing a little bit too much of that early on in the season. David in the chat says, send the special teams coordinator and Bird to the junior Ticats. They suck. Chris says, Cats have not won in Winnipeg in 5 years. Chris, thanks for the reminder. Civil Defense Canada says, good evening. Good evening, Civil Defense Canada. You can continue to contribute to the chat or on email, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Andrew writes in, subject line, come on. He says, I have lost all faith in the command center. I take back my player of the game vote I gave them last year. Okay, that's a new one. I don't recall anybody voting for the command center as player of the game, but Andrew, I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I mean, whether it's the command center or the officiating, and listen, they're human as well. They'll make some mistakes, but it seems like, especially when it comes to video replay, there's got to be a set standard or an expectation or some consistency, especially when it comes to pass interference. There is so much gray area. It's not even funny. Randy on email. If you want to contribute on email, vote for your player of the game. Talk about tonight's game, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Randy writes in, good evening, Rick. This game was very slow starting for Hamilton. A quiet first half, and the offense could not get it going. The defense was much improved in the second half. Let's hope Taylor Powell can return from injury soon. A positive activation of Tungavaloa for the third QB position. Maybe this year he will play. I'm not yet sure about the Chris Jones appointment and experiment yet. Time will tell. A nice Chris Jones challenge on the Patman attempted reception late in the game, but not enough contact. There was improvement in the second half on defense. Randy goes on to write, 3 good Tiger Cat interceptions. I like the performances of Greg Bell and Tim White tonight. Nick Usher was playing well on the ball. Crucial missed field goal by Mark Leggio, and a good point by Randy there. We need those points. The undisciplined Moxie penalty did not help. It destroyed our chances. The extra quarterback hit was not necessary. The penalty on the Bird kickoff, another mistake. A terrible way to lose. My player of the game, according to Randy, Tim White, consideration to Greg Bell. A couple votes for White, one for Usher, one for Bo Levi. Should mention as well, you can also offer your thoughts on tonight's game on X at Rick Samprin. Use the hashtag fifth quarter. Let's get to some of those messages because a slew of them have just come in. Let's do a quick refresh here on what people are saying on X. Jimmy V says a lot of good things tonight, but the defense could not stop the Bombers at a crucial point of the game. Bell for player of the game, 2 and 9. Ouch. Oski wee wee. Greg Bell, I thought, had a good game. There's been a lot of heat on Bell, and I think primarily because Ticats fans want to see James Butler in there. And I've been asked, why isn't James Butler in there? And this is really a coach's decision. Butler's a healthy scratch. He's not hurt. Coaching staff wants to see what Bell can bring to the table. And tonight he had 12 carries, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 catch as well for another 4 yards. I just think this team would get a lot more out of James Butler than they would Greg Bell. I understand they're 2 and 9. I understand, they have one eye on winning now and one eye on seeing who can be the next Ticat star. think you have a star in James Butler right now. Use that guy and maybe dress both of them and have a rotation. I mean, we saw Oliveira and Augustine for the Blue Bombers have two of those guys going. Aaron says, I'm not usually one to claim the refs, but the refs. How is pulling on a wide receiver's jersey while the ball is in the air not DPI? How does Moxie get called for illegal contact when he's pulled down by his face mask? Two key plays that affected the outcome. Yeah, I've given up trying to solve the command center, defensive pass interference. There's so many variables and so much inconsistency that I say no mas. I've given up long ago. Alan on X at Rick Samprin is the handle. Use the hashtag fifth quarter. Alan writes, our D looked different tonight. We didn't give up 400 plus. We created turnovers, but who else is to blame? Hope for a better second half to the season. Go Cats go. Hashtag the fifth quarter. Got a couple more on X before we get back to the chat and the email. Email, by the way, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. This one is from Albert, who says, I was hoping the Ticats could hold them from a touchdown, but in the back of my mind, I knew they would ducking below it. Thank you, Albert, for putting the D in there. The Cats must hold the record for most times allowing teams to drive the field and win the game. If they don't lead the league, they're certainly way up on there, Albert. Good point. Manny says 3 possessions inside 3 minutes, and Bo did what? Underthrow, bad reads. Yeah, you got to score more than, I think they settled for 1 field goal, and you got to get more than that. No doubt about that. And then there was 1 punt and there was 1 field goal and there was a missed field goal. Let's get back to the chat. And again, if you're joining us for the first time on the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube, thanks a lot. We're here after each and every Tiger Cats game. Next time around will be after the Labor Day Classic. And I believe we're going to have calls on that show. We've kind of figured it out, just waiting for YouTube verification from a kind of behind the scenes standpoint. We'll make it very public when we finally get that verification coming in. So to the chat we go. This one is from David, who says, Tank and draft Nathan Rourke's brother. That is a good strategy. If he does want to play in the Canadian Football League, because obviously his brother wanted to try his hand at the NFL, and now he's back with the BC Lions, and we wish him all the best until they play the Tiger Cats, of course. Chris says the penalty on Moxie was huge. Absolutely was. I wouldn't say it changed the game, but it certainly benefited the Blue Bombers for sure. Jake the Snake says, WTF, Ticats are cursed. It kind of feels that way sometimes. This team's 2-9. And yeah, not all 11 games we can throw in this Ticats team is cursed, but there have been situations where I think we're all expecting kind of the worst. We're hoping for the best, and the worst always happens, or at least 9 times out of 10, at least it seems like. George Green on the chats. Why not try an outrageously long field goal instead of just trying to throw it down the field for the final play of the game? Well, probably because you're not going to get the outrageously long field goal to be good. I mean, that would have been probably 70 some odd yarder, if maybe even longer than that. The odds of that are probably in the, point percentile, 0.1 or 0.5 percentile. I think really, towards the end of the game, what was there, 19 seconds left when the Ticats got the ball? I mean, that first play, that over crossing pattern to Illyria Orange kind of soaked up, a lot of the clock and really didn't give the Ticats an opportunity. I think the first play of that last final drive should have been a big kind of chunk play, or at least an attempt downfield, but just did not materialize. And Jamie says, Legeo hits field goal earlier and we are in overtime now. Absolutely. Every kick counts, and that wide left really hurt. Absolutely really hurt. Jamie, great point. Back to the emails we go. And we'll do a little refresh here. Again, the email is fifthquartershow@gmail.com. And this one is from Anthony, who says, hello, Rick. First off, shout out to you for keeping the fifth quarter alive. Anthony, my pleasure. Happy to help. Interesting night of football out there. Seems like 2024 is our season to lose almost every other game in the last 3 minutes. Whether it be our defense giving up 15-yard plays every play, or us throwing for 5 yards and burning the clock when we need 40 yards, when we have a shot to tie it, we always find a way to lose. Tim White was our offense tonight for the passing game, and our run game was okay, but we are still very predictable when we're running a play and the Winnipeg defense always looked prepared for it. The defense was solid. Bend, don't break defense worked better tonight. Pack it up, throw it away, burn it. The season's a write-off. I love my Ticats, but this season reminds me of that 16-2 season a long time ago. I think he means 2-16. Player of the game, Nick Usher. This guy can be our new HOV in the future. I really like his play style, and there's no doubt about it that his play style has been amazing. Excuse me. Nick Usher has been getting to the quarterback and has been not only getting pressures, but as we saw tonight, a couple of sacks for the big guy. So another vote for Nick Usher. Vote for your player of the game. Send me your thoughts on tonight's game and this 2-9 Ticats outfit. Again, I didn't expect this team to be 2-9. Far from it. I didn't expect them to be 9-2, somewhere around 500-ish when the season ended. I don't think they're getting anywhere close to that. Bruce on email, fifthquartershow@gmail.com is the email address. The number 5, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Bruce says, to be expected, Rick, no one blows games like the Cats. It's not how you play the game, it's how you finish the game. This team can't do it. I say Bob Young should sell the team or at least fire Scott Mitchell. The fans deserve better, and that's all I have to say about this game. No player of the game takes a team to win, and we don't have that. People can say what they want, but we are now 2-9, 2-11 if you count the preseason. Thanks, Rick, for continuing the fifth quarter. It means the world to us. Cheers to all, and have a great weekend. Bruce, thank you so much for offering your thoughts on tonight's game and not voting for a player of the game, which you have the luxury to do. Randy in the chat says some errors caused this loss: the missed field goal, penalty at the end, penalty of the kickoff return, and overall game improvement. Nona says, shaking my head, we were so close to winning. What the heck? Sky Creeper says Tim White is his player of the game. And if you missed the stats earlier, I'll give you a quick refresh. Bo Levi Mitchell, 14 of 28, 220 yards, no TDs, no interceptions. Greg Bell, 12 carries, 41 yards, 2 TDs. Tim White, 7 receptions, 134 yards. If you're wondering about the other receivers, not a lot of action other than Tim White. Brendan Leary Orange, 2 grabs, 31 yards. Shamar Bridges, quiet night for him, 2 catches for 12 yards. Giovanni Robinson, 1 for 20. Keandre Smith, 1 for 19. Greg Bell, 1 catch for 4 yards. And defensively, Kyle Wilson, I thought, had a pretty strong game tonight. 8 defensive tackles, interception as well. Nick Usher with a couple of quarterback sacks. You had Will Sunderland, couple of pass knockdowns in his first action. David Menard had a sack tonight. Ticats net yards trailed Winnipeg. They had 285. Hamilton did. Winnipeg 321. Back to the chat we go. Dave says, look better in the second half for sure. A work in progress with the recent changes, but it will be tough. And I think it is, getting to that other level, getting into the playoff picture, which is going to be a tough go. Steel City Coach says Bo Levi again throwing picks, making bad decisions, and throwing into coverage more than once. So he wasn't picked off tonight. We didn't throw an interception, but there were some throws, and I can say this for Zach Caleros as well. Some throws were like, what is going on? Like, who's he throwing to? Miscommunication between Bo and the receiver, especially Zach and a few of his receivers. The quarterbacks were in tough tonight. Let's give a little bit of credit to the defense, but the quarterbacks did not play their best. That is for sure. On X, at Rick Zamprin is where you can offer your thoughts on tonight's game. Vote for your player of the game. Tiger Sammy says, I stick by my comment, and earlier said, going to get my comment in early, Rick. This is 16 hours ago. What a win. Can't believe they pulled it off. Everything is wonderful in Tiger Town. We're going to win the Grey Cup. My player of the game is Mark Leggio after his 68-yard game-winning field goal. Tiger Sammy, oh so close. Corey Allen says the good defense played a solid game overall. Can start planning for next year. We didn't get blown out. The bad, costly penalties, turnovers, though we won that stat. Poor offense in the first half, missed field goal, lost by 3. Player of the game is Tim White. More love for Tim White. And obviously earlier on this season, he wasn't getting a lot of that. And that was probably well-deserved. He did not start the season very strong, as you all well know. The Mark P says, I thought the defense played really well, forced turnovers, got a few sacks, but that notorious Cats 3-man rush reared its ugly head again. I thought Mark Washington got fired. Yeah, and the Mark P and others on X were kind of saying this as well. All game long, the Ticats weren't always rushing three guys. I mean, at the start of the game, there's a three-man rush. They were dropping eight back, maybe causing a little bit of confusion. They went to a four-man front, blitzed a couple of linebackers at times. They were getting some pressure on Caleros. That last drive, it was three-man front, eight guys in the linebacking and secondary core, and Caleros and Winnipeg just kind of sliced and diced through that defensive structure. And I'm not sure they should have gone that way. I think putting some pressure on Caleros, it worked throughout the game, probably would have been better suited for the Ticats during that time. Jim on X at Rick Samprin is the handle. The hashtag is fifth quarter. Jim says, well, Rick, that was better than I expected, but still not good enough. Some moments were the team gave us hope, but they couldn't come up with the stop when needed. Glad to see some interceptions at least. Bell for player of the game, but honorable mention to Usher and White. I will note Greg Bell for your player of the game. And John on X says, better game than I expected. D had strong compete. And yeah, the defense I thought all game was good, solid, better, certainly compared to last week against Edmonton. There's no doubt about that. But room for improvement. There's no doubt about that. Scott on X says CFL has a problem. Refs are a joke and command center doesn't make it right. Refs should not be deciding the outcome of the game. Scott, you're 100% right on that. 100% right. Back to the email. Steve, the email is fifthquartershow@gmail.com. That's the number 5th, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Steve says, well, Rick, the Tiger Cats snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory this evening in Winnipeg. It was a spirited effort by the Cats, but they came up short. The three-man D-line during the waning moments, in hindsight, wasn't a great idea. They should have pressured Caleros. He is dangerous without pressure. Player of the game, Tim White. Another vote for Timmy. P.S. I don't agree with the command center's decision regarding the pass interference call. A player can't grab a jersey. He interfered with the receiver at that point, period. Steve, can't argue with that at all. He absolutely did. We all saw Desmond Patton's jersey getting tugged down just before the ball arrived. That should be a penalty. That should be a penalty. Alan on email says, hey, Rick, it's Alan from St. Catharines. A lot better on defense this game, but still not enough. I thought Tim White played well and gets player of the game for me. Another vote for Tim. A few nice little runs by Greg Bell, and I like what Giovanni Robinson did tonight. I would like to see more of Brendan O'Leary-Orange. Thought he made some nice plays. It will be interesting to see what happens on Labor Day. Can we beat Toronto again? What does Hamilton have in their bag of tricks? We shall see. Let's hope for win number 3, possibly against Chad Kelly. Well, two things on your note, Alan. Thanks again for emailing. Brendan O'Leary-Orange, this was his first game of the season. He's been injured up until now, finally got into practice earlier on this week, on the fields, made some catches. Nice to see him. He could be a good addition down the stretch here. And yeah, it will be Chad Kelly at quarterback for the Argonauts. I know that is a sore point for many, including myself. I think this was an incident that they could have easily give him the entire 2024 season. He's paid his dues. He's gone through the process. He's done his suspension. He went through the counseling. And here he is again. And we'll see him on Labor Day at Tim Hortons Field. Back to the chat. And again, thanks to all who have subscribed, who are tuning in now, who've told their coworkers or friends about the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. Let's go to the chat. And Sam says, even when Hamilton plays well, they can't win. Kevin says, well, at least they didn't get killed, and the defense played a lot better. Steel City Coach says, Calgary knew he was done. Hamilton hasn't figured that out yet, and that's in reference to Bo Levi Mitchell. Jack and the Beanstalker, love the handle. Zero disappeared in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I would say there were some guys, I think on both teams, that didn't have their best games, and sometimes you're going to get that. But let's look at the Ticats offense in the first half that was in complete disappearing mode. They did not show up in that first half, and I think if they had another chance, they definitely would have tried some different things. Bruce says, loss is a loss is a loss is a loss, and we lost again. Steel City Coach says, player of the game is Tim White. We have a new name that at least I don't recognize from last time around, so thanks for joining us. Gallifrey 2 Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. Other than the third quarter, the offense was terrible. Kudos to Tim White, who had a very good game. Anthony says number 75, player of the game. Number 75 is Nick Usher, who had a couple of sacks tonight. Bob, in response to Steel City coach, what game were you watching? Bo Levi had 0 interceptions. David says pathetic. And Ryan says Bo Levi had 0 touchdown passes. And Jay says, Rick, you need to do a walk to the pantry and pull out a snack of the game. It's not a bad idea. We're in a temporary location tonight, too. We got some family over for this week, and happy to oblige in doing it here from basically what is our kitchen table. So, yeah, welcome into the Zamperin household. Glad to have you here. Sam on email. And the email is fifthquartershow@gmail.com. The number 5th, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Sam writes, defeat from the jaws of victory over a much better performance, but still not good enough. To only give up 19 defensive points was a huge improvement. Glad to see the Cats were getting pressure on Caleros, especially Usher, all evening. Just couldn't get the stop when we needed it most. Offensively, we seemed a bit lackluster. Tim White and Greg Bell aside, better in the second half, but you aren't going to win many games scoring only 23. At least Bo didn't turn the ball over. Sam, Tiger, Sammy, Quinn, whose player of the game is Jamal Peters. Special mention to Tim White, Nick Usher, and Stanley Bryant. We're all thinking of him. Sam, thank you for the vote. Jamal Peters with an interception, although he's probably not going to get an easier one in his career because that was certainly a gift. Earned it. He was in position, obviously. I mean, there was 2 Ticats there, and he was the one that ended up getting it. Phil on email. Hi, Rick. It's Philly Filski. Well, what do you say about that one? Terrible first half by the Tiger Cats, only to claw back in the second and lose it in gut-wrenching fashion. But then again, Tiger Cats fans are used to this movie like a bad rerun over and over. I can't believe how Zach Caleros continues to haunt his former team. He was complete rubbish in this game, save for the game-winning drive. It pulls out a victory. Hamilton is now 2-9, 8 points out of a playoff spot, and realistically would have to win 6 of their final 7 to even be in the conversation, and we all know that's not going to happen. Stick a fork in it. Season is over, says Philly Filski. The team needs to be dismantled from top to bottom, starting with Orlando. It'll be 24 seasons and counting without a Grey Cup. Completely unacceptable in a 9-team league. Tiger Cat fans deserve a whole lot better. Many thanks for keeping the Fifth Quarter Show alive on YouTube. Keep up the immaculate work. Philly Filski, thank you so much. Back to X. And this one is from Ticat Steve, who says the D disappeared when it really counted. Another sad loss. And Dave, the IT guy, says decent second half, but too little, too late. This one is from William MC. Decent offense in the second half. I like the pressure put on Caleros, but our linebackers and DBs can't get the job done. Pretty sure my seats will be empty next weekend. William MC not going to the Labor Day Classic. That is a statement. RH on X says a 6-yard pass with 13 seconds left. I'm done until Mitchell is gone. He's just not good enough anymore. Val says rats. Another loss. But half of a game, the Cats played well. Player of the game, Tim White, and honorable mention to Chris Jones. We haven't really talked a lot about Chris Jones tonight. Other than to say, I think the defense overall was a little bit better, certainly a lot better than last week, but a little bit better overall when you compare it to, the extended, previous 7 or 8 games or whatever they played up until this point. 2-9, that would have been 11, so 10 games, if my math is correct. Scott says, player of the game is the refs and the command center for blowing the pass interference. Pull the collar of the jersey, no call a penalty to give the Bombers a first down. TSN finally showed it. Should have been a face mask against the Bombers. Disgraceful. CFL. And Liam says, complete joke. That is his message on X. Back to email. We have one more to go, and this one is from Jeff, who says, hey, Rick, man, what a game. It looks like Chris Jones has given this defense the injection it needed. It was so nice to see them finally show some teeth tonight. Still a long road, but this was definitely a step in the right direction. Even special teams seem to have a bit more pep in their step. Hope they keep Bird back there returning kicks. The offense was terrible in the first half, which wound up costing us this game. A field goal or two would have changed the outcome of this one once they got going. I thought it was pretty solid. Bo should be the undisputed starter for the rest of the year, barring any injury. He gives us the best shot to win. I'm starting to think that the whole double duty head coach coordinator is a thing of the past, says Jeff. Every example of this in recent years hasn't worked, and it isn't working right now with Milanovic calling from the field. A CFL team needs a dedicated DC and a dedicated OC up top calling plays from above. Player of the game, Greg Bell. People shouldn't need to ask why he's starting in front of Butler. He's playing better. Have a great night. Hope to do this on the phone next time. And Jeff, that is the plan. If you missed it earlier, the plan is to have calls. Got one more email. Have calls for the Labor Day Classic. We're just waiting for some back end kind of verification from YouTube. So fingers crossed that comes through. And I don't have any doubts. It's a 24 to 48 hour kind of wait. We did this earlier on today. We should have calls for the Labor Day Classic. Steve on email says Bill Belichick might be looking for a job. Should the Ticats call him? Steve, I say no. Let him stay on TV down in the US of A. I do not want Bill Belichick anywhere near the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Please and thank you. Back to the chat as we'll wrap it up in a couple of minutes here. This is from Mr. Zero Sum Game. Chris Jones has been tasked with fostering a positive team culture with players and staff until he takes over from former Scott Milanovic for the 2025 season. That will definitely be interesting. I'm not sure it's going to happen for 2025, but I think if Chris Jones is retained in 2025 and this team starts slow again, that's the national or the natural progression, right? The natural succession plan. Thomas says, hello, Rick. It's Ticat territory down here in Chatham, Kent. I'm voting for the Ticats fans across the globe as collective player of the game for living through this season. Okay, I'll take it. Bob says, agree. Bo always goes for the kill. Use the outlet pass on 2nd and 5. And let's just scroll down a little bit here. This one from Mike, who says, player of the game, Coach Jones, big improvement. We'll get there. Hurry up and heal. Powell is the future. Go Cats go. Hang in there, fans. Ari says, season is a complete loss. Plan and develop for the future. Play your young quarterbacks and sit Bo. Give your young kids. Number 36, Ryan Baker, looks like a gem. Actually, Baker looks pretty good. He looked pretty good tonight, too. Karen says, thanks for keeping the 5th quarter going, Rick. Sadly, this is the one that got away. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. And Mr. Zero says, bye, Ricky, just like the Ticats. Mr. Zero, have a great night. Camp says, is Bo's clock management in retirement already? It's so slow. He wasted 10 seconds walking up to the line. Brad says, hey, Rick, maybe you can call in a favor at the stadium and get one of those media backgrounds for your basement as a backdrop for the show. Happy face emoji. Yeah, we're working on that. Don't you worry. Louis says, got to get Butler in somehow. Bad calls by the refs, and the D looked gassed at the end. This franchise is snake bitten. Steven says, Oski Ow, another painful loss. Player of the game, Nick Usher. Some love for Nick Usher. He had a great game tonight. The gnarled Branch says head coach is now 3-20 in his last 23 games. Aaron, my player of the game is the command center. They won the game for Winnipeg. Sam says, I thought we had a win if the Cats beat the Argos on Labor Day. That's my Grey Cup. I love the Cats with the up or down season. I love you, 5th quarter, and thanks for keeping it going. Absolutely my pleasure. Michael says, how is this any different than Washington's defense? Another game choked away late that they should have won. Player of the game, Butler, who should have played. I'm not sure we've ever had a vote for a player who did not play in the game, but I might stand corrected on that. Ian says, anything less than a win is unacceptable. No more victories, nor saying the team is getting better. And he goes on to say, looking forward, other than Powell, not sure he is the answer, are there other quarterbacks available next, or are we stuck with Powell to develop? I would say Powell and Tagovailoa and maybe Harrison Frost next season. Those are probably the 3 guys this team is kind of looking at. Rod says, better days are coming. I can feel Ticats fans. Poor non-call on the missed face mask. Great show, Rick. Love the 5th quarter. And Anthony says, player of the game, Kenneth George Jr., who was released. And I think that might just be a good time to end the show on that note as shots are getting fired here on the 5th quarter. Thanks to one and all for tuning in. and supporting the fifth quarter show here on YouTube. We're back after the Labor Day Classic, Ticats and Argonauts on Labor Day Monday. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will have calls on that show. Looking forward to talking to you once again. Player of the game, voted by you, the fans, is Tim White. Thanks to all who voted for that. I'm going to say the fifth quarter fan of the night is everyone who's tuned in the last couple of shows, and I will have a distinctive one fan of the night for the fifth quarter show on Labor Day, which is going to come at us very, very soon. We'll see you all then. Have an awesome weekend, and thanks for supporting the fifth quarter show on YouTube.